Hey! Welcome back! It is spooky season right now. Halloween has passed, but it is still so dark outside. So what I thought, since it is kind of spooky and dark outside and it's getting colder and colder, why don't we just gather around and tell a little bit of spooky stories? More specifically, I want to talk to you about 5 spooky creatures from Scandinavian folklore and Norse mythology. So before we start, everyone gather around, grab a little hot beverage of some sort. And of course, if you have a friend with you, hold their hand or their head. So the first creature from Scandinavian folklore and myth that I want to talk about is Gloon. And Gloon is actually a lesser known creature from Scandinavian folklore that is roaming around the forests, mainly in southern Sweden. She is a ghost swine. For many, it is a given that the spooky, scary creatures, that includes like werewolves or bears or even horses, like the super scary Becka horse we have over here in Sweden that gathers children on its back and runs down into lakes and drowns them all. A swine? A pig? Now that's different. A pig might not sound as intimidating as those other examples, but anyone walking down a lonesome, cold and dark forest path in Sweden would not want to run into Gloon. She's not just any pig, she's a giant pig. And she is a giant pig that has a habit of charging towards people. And she's specifically aiming to run underneath your legs, because the hairs on her back are razor sharp. So it is said that she would even sever people and to cut them into pieces with her back hair. She is described to have fire instead of eyes, and that her fur is white and shining. She's this big glowing creature coming towards you very fast. She is also described to have these giant tusks, and sometimes she has been described as carrying some sharp object in her mouth, like a scythe or something similar. What's even scarier than that is that some sources say that she is in fact invisible. How scary would that be if an invisible creature like that charged towards you and you are none the wiser until it's too late? Other sources say that she has hundreds of eyes all over her body and that her father is actually the devil himself. Having this type of animal charging towards you, that is scary enough with or without flaming eyes or fiery breath. Are you getting scared yet? Number 2 in this list is the Ming. Mylingar might actually be some of the scariest creatures that Swedish folklore has to offer. Mylingar are the angry ghosts of small children that has been murdered by their mothers. There are tales about these young women who have accidentally gotten pregnant outside of marriage, and in order to hide the pregnancy for people, they have gotten rid of their children and sometimes stuffed them away somewhere. Since a child like that you want to keep a secret, you do not arrange a proper funeral. But these mothers, they were severely mistaken that these children would remain a secret. They could be exposed by the Myling singing very loudly about what their mother had done to them. These ghost children were said to reside in close proximity to where these young mothers would have hidden their bodies. So for example, in field rock piles or in bogs, in forest meadows, and even underneath the floorboards of their homes. And it is not only mothers that have been haunted by these ghost children. Unfortunate travelers and wanderers have run into these children. So what the Myling could do is that it could take a leap and jump onto a poor wanderer's back and hold on for dear life and just violently scream and cry until the traveler has given them a name. One way that could work is either if the traveler gives them their own name. So if they are baptized, they can give away their name to the Myling and it will let go. Or they can help the ghost child to find its body. Those are the two ways you can get rid of a Myling. They are also said to show up unexpectedly to their mother's weddings. So during the wedding feast, when everyone is having a good time, the Myling would come crawling up from underneath the floorboards and take a hold of their mom and dance her to death. There's also very, very spooky sources that are talking about how Mylingar has actually breastfed their mothers to death during cold and dark nights. The name Myling actually comes from the word myrtha, which is Old Norse for murdered. Spooky to say the least. Creature number 3. Of course, I couldn't leave this one out of the spooky theme. Draugrs. A draugur or a draug is a creature from Norse mythology that is a ghost creature. A draugur is more of a zombie than a ghost though, since they are on the more fleshier side of that spectrum. These types of creatures is not a pleasant sight for anyone that happens upon them. I mean, except the obvious that they are walking corpses, they are undead, and that is very scary. They are also said to be very mean and cunning, and they have magical powers. Like for example, they are way too strong for someone who died 400 years ago. They have in fact supernatural kind of strength. It is also said that draugrs can change their appearances. They can change their height or their weight. These creatures are mainly found in graves or in mounds. And they have been very greedy and mean people in life. And they are way too greedy in death to actually pass on and move on. They need to hold on to the grave goods and the treasures that they have been buried with. And sometimes draugrs are so mean and jealous creatures that they will even dig themselves into some other person's grave or mound that are much richer than they are, so that they will take a hold of their grave goods. And kind of like our modern take on the zombie, which wants to eat people's brains, the draugrs are said to sometimes eat people up or drink their blood, like a vampire. And just like vampires, you could get rid of a draugr if you impale it. You would just have to maybe not aim so much for the heart as for the ground and have a bigger pole. If you impale a draugr, your aim should be at keeping it down in the ground. That way it can't run after you or anyone else if it's stuck. There is also the option of separating the head from the body in order to get rid of a draugr. Their mean spiritedness can actually be found in their very name. Draugr in ancient Icelandic actually means to betray and to hurt. We have come to number 4 on our spooky list. Here I have put lyktgubbar. This translates into lantern men. And a lyktgubbe or a lantern man is what you can spot when you look outside and there's just a flicker of light moving in the darkness and you can't really make out what it is. This light is the lantern that the lantern man is holding up in front of him as he is searching. And if you take a closer look behind the lantern, you will see the shape of an old man wearing very worn out clothes. Lantern men are said to be the spirits of men that has lured land off of other people during their lifetime, or they are men who have done just equally as much bad as good in their life. So their punishment is that they are never allowed to rest. And while they are aimlessly walking around with their head down, looking down in the ground, mumbling about this is right or this is wrong, they seem pretty harmless. That's not always the case. And what's worse than that is that you will never know when a lantern man is in a good or a bad mood. Sometimes they would help lost travelers to find their way home again. And other times they were said to be able to take travelers with them during silence and start digging up treasures for the travelers, which is a pretty nice thing to do. But on the other hand, they can also take away your eyesight, and they could make you see things that aren't real. So you could literally be standing in front of your house, in front of your front door, and they would put a spell on you, making you never be able to find it. And if you're not silenced while the lantern man is digging up that treasure for you, then the treasure will turn into snakes and toads. What is very creepy with the lantern men is that they could just show up in the dark wherever, and you never know which way it will go. We have made it to number 5. Are you holding on to your friends and your hot drink? During ancient Scandinavian times, there was a very scary and mean woman who disturbed the sleep of many, many people. And her name was Maran. The creature number 5 is Maran. Actually, mardröm is still the word for nightmare in Swedish, and mardröm translates to the dream of the Mara. And the Mara is not just any creature. Old Icelandic skalds have written down tales how one Mara actually managed to kill off a king in his sleep. In Swedish folklore, a Mara is usually described as a very attractive and young woman, but in other sources she is a hideous old lady. In other parts of Europe, the Mara is not a woman at all, but is described as a cat that is laying upon people's chests very heavily so they can't breathe when they are sleeping. And there is something very scary about being completely helpless and fast asleep while an evil, unknown woman is creeping into your bedroom in complete silence and with ill intentions, and she is slowly making her way from the floor and then up the edge of your bed and then up. Sources talk about the Mara coming through the chimney or an open window, or even a tiny keyhole if a person has locked their door. The Mara is a personification of what we nowadays call sleep paralysis, since so many people have described the Mara as them waking up and seeing a dark figure on top of them, and they can't breathe, they can't move, and they can't scream. The Mara, unlike the other creatures we've been talking about this evening, is not a ghost. It is usually a woman that has gotten a curse laid upon her. This curse would be a consequence because of how the Mara's mother, while giving birth to her, had used magical powers to lessen the pain while giving birth. So if the mother used magical powers to lessen the pains of childbirth, if the baby that was born from that was a son, he would turn into a werewolf. And if the baby was a girl, that would turn into a Mara. During daytime, they would be seen as completely normal women, but it was during nighttime that they would transform and turn into these nasty, jealous, evil creatures that would enjoy making people and animals suffer. There is one source, however, that is talking about the Mara as an undead creature. It is the ghost of a woman that never married in her life, and rage and jealousy have turned her into a Mara beyond the grave. There is protection against these creatures. One type of protection is that you put horseshoes underneath your bed with the heel of the horseshoe facing the floor underneath the bed. You could also put iron scissors in your bed. There are also stories talking about how you could put shoes in front of your bed with the toes facing the bed, because then the Mara, when she would sneak into your room, she would have to go through the shoes before she could get to the bed, and in the shoes she would be stuck and wouldn't be able to enter the bed. Maror are also said to be impatient, and they are really bad at math. So one type of protection would be that you would put grains of salt or sand in front of your bed, or strands of hair. Then the Mara, before getting to your bed, she would have to stop and start counting every little single one of the things you put out on the floor. Either she would get so frustrated that she would leave you alone and go to someone else, or sunrise would come and she would never get to you in the bed. So now you know a couple of ways to keep safe during these dark and cold nights, if you don't want a hysterical, screaming and cackling unknown woman sitting on top of your chest. I guess each to their own, right? We made it. That's the top 5, guys. Thank you so much for listening and spending this very dark and spooky evening with me and Oscar. You guys keep safe out there in the darkness. Also, huge shout out to the creator of the art on this beautiful tarot deck, Annette Prs. I'll put her link down below. But again, you guys keep safe out there in the darkness. And if there's anything you've learned here tonight with me and Oscar, it is that maybe it's just better to sit indoors by a fire with some hot drinks than go wandering off in dark forests looking for strange pigs or lantern men. And maybe also to put a little paper in the keyhole to your bedroom. I'll see you guys soon again. Hej då!